problem or concern under the financial arm is this idea that you can be blackmailed or extorted for financial gain. So if you have a lot of debt and someone comes along and says, hey, I will give you this amount of money if you give me this information, the likelihood of you compromising national security goes way up. We see this playing out currently, in the news, where you have, in the administration, an individual who did not disclose payments by a foreign government, and so that has created lots of scrutiny on that issue. So the idea here is that if you have a financial concern, if your debts are getting out of control, the issue is whether or not that may affect your judgment. Okay, and then if it can affect your judgment, and they typically view that as your debt greatly exceeds your income, then that is something that will gain scrutiny. It may trigger this dynamic of your income versus your debt don't align in the way that we would expect, and therefore that's a point of scrutiny. Now, if you let that debt fester or you don't resolve it in a proper way or deal with it, if you ignore it, that could raise some significant challenges for you and potentially render you unfit to maintain your security clearance. It's unfortunate, but it is, again, it's a privilege, and the issue is not the individual. Unfortunately, the focus here is on national security. So, student loan debt can become another one of those issues. People have choices, and so sometimes when you're looking at the debts that you have, the car that gets you to work, the gas that keeps the heat and cooling on, food that's on your table, kids' education, what have you, those become priorities, and the student loan debt you incurred 10, 15 years ago that is not going anywhere, is sitting at $100,000 and what have you, and you start letting that get out of hand because you're making other financial choices due to employment issues or what have you, that starts backing up. That's the type of thing that can really, give you problems, because if you're not managing your household finances in an appropriate way, that's going to give you scrutiny. Now, a lot of that can be explained, and that's why it is one of these waivable categories. Hey, I got laid off because this contractor, didn't get the contract that we thought was going to get, and so I have a break in employment. I allowed my wife to, or my husband to go into the marketplace, and I stayed home to take care of the kids for a period of time while, we arranged that so we didn't have the same income level that we used to have. I took a pay cut because of a quality of life issue, but I realized I've got to, do something else to offset that. There are all these types of financial decisions that are all explainable. The one thing that will get you in trouble is if you ignore them. So, and that is usually captured by your credit report. So you cannot run. If you do controlled substance in someone's house in the dark on the weekend, they may not catch you if you're not tested or what have you, and you decide to lie and all of this other stuff. But financial concerns are something that are not going to escape you, because creditors want their money, and they're going to be very aggressive at pursuing that. So you need to be just as aggressive in managing that issue. And if you get into trouble, seeking out, first reporting that and keeping your chain of command informed as to what's going on, as well as trying to figure out a way through and resolving the debt. Tax issues are another problem that people encounter. Tax code is very complicated. People don't understand how they need to interact with the tax code on occasions. You get an estate disbursement, you get unfound income that you didn't know, you win the lottery, any of these things that come along, and all of a sudden you have a pot of money, you don't address the tax problem, and all of a sudden it becomes a much bigger issue, and you don't know how to manage it, and it gets spun out of control. We have an example where an individual joined the military. He was supposed to have some amount of his student loans paid off. That did not occur because they messed up administratively. He appealed that decision. 3 years later, they finally decided, you're right, we messed this up and we're going to fix it. So they went back historically and paid all of the loans, but the problem is now he has $60,000 tax debt that he has to confront. because of the value of the compensation that he received. And so now he's wrestling with this because, unfortunately, he was fighting to deal with the student loan issue, and now he's got a $60,000 tax bill that he's got to wrestle with, and he's on a fixed income because he's getting paid on the 15th and the 30th of every month, just like all the other service members are getting paid. So these are things, life events that occur that impact people on a regular basis, and keeping your command informed, or your supervisors informed as to things that may affect you in a way or potentially put you at risk for getting behind are things that should be considered.